Hello, hello, hello. I am very, very excited to bring amazing conversation to you to kind of reflect and be aware of in relation to the power of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And because I feel that right now we are in a whole new paradigm, there is a whole new way of showing up, being in business, even lifestyle, in what really lights you up, what really lights your soul. And maybe you don't realize, but maybe what you thought you wanted, or maybe what you thought was possible, actually is different then, and you're not even aware of it. So what we're doing today, Liz and I, is we're having a beautiful conversation around the divine feminine, the divine masculine in business, and then the next level of being the divine feminine and the divine masculine coming together in the unity consciousness, and the impact that that has in your life, in your business, in your results, in your energy, in your experience, and in the amount of pleasure and ease and grace and flow that is possible that you may not be aware of until you've landed here on this interview. So let me hand you over, first of all, to the amazing Liv Gutierrez, who's going to introduce herself, and then we can just have a great conversation and just open up the energy to see what actually the divine want us to speak about, to support you.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm so excited and happy to be having conversations with you and just having our unfolding together. So, to introduce myself, I'm a psychiatrist, a child, adolescent, and adult. I call psychiatrist. I have a private practice in California. I call myself a multi-dimensional psychiatrist now because I really have been able to bring in all of myself into my psychiatry work, which was not always the case because psychiatry, as you know, can be very old paradigm, very limiting. But the inner shift that I've experienced in working with you have just allowed me the freedom to just kind of show up as all of myself in my psychiatry work, as well as my emerging confidence and identity as a water keeper, which is really my soul work in the world is a water keeper. And that's something I'm really stepping into, and watching how the two are combining and evolving is such a beautiful process and a journey that just it's like it's fun to wake up every day and be like, what's going to happen next? What's around the corner?
Exactly. And you know, that place of that unknown is like, oh, great, because that's where the divine is doing its magic. That's where, you know, God is. That's where the divine is. And I think it's us as kind of human beings, if we look at what's kind of going on in the world collectively, I feel we're being reminded that actually nothing is secure. And the only thing that you're sure of is that the divine has your highest good in mind, and that actually your desires, your success, your dreams are inevitable. Okay, no matter what. It's like, it's just about alignment, right? It's just like, it's lining up to the energetics, and from that place, then taking the aligned action. So what I wanted to talk about, Liz, is kind of your experience in business around like when you're just doing the you know, following and focusing on the masculine principles. And I'll talk maybe as well about like my experience about just the feminine principles, and then we'll maybe talk about what we've discovered, whereby it's not the either or. And I talk a lot about the ancient divine feminine way and the new Aquarian age, and it's about bringing in the and. It's like when you bring the divine masculine and the divine feminine together, you are connecting with, like I'm seeing the figure 8, this unity consciousness that is the game changer in your interaction and in your experience.
Yeah, thank you. I love talking about this because it's been such a journey. And I would say that, like many of us, I'll speak for myself. I was, having gone through medical school and medical training, and being kind of like a very driven person, I was very much in my masculine in kind of how I oriented to productivity and work and even kind of business. But then when I started working with you around bringing in the feminine, it was like a completely different perspective around how to harness the energy of the feminine and to kind of really allow things to happen, to trust in the divine unfolding, and to kind of doing less and being more, and being and opening to that energy. But then I noticed that it was still an either or. Like it was kind of like I was either in my masculine or either in my feminine. And it would be sort of a disjointed sort of either or energy. And it's really been the integration of how do you know what energy is needed at a time, and how to call up that energy, and how, when you're overworking your masculine, how to rest in your feminine, or when your feminine is being too passive and not owning your worth and not owning your power, when it really needs an infusion of the masculine confidence and action. And so becoming more, just through lived experience, like what does masculine energy feel like, and not just masculine, but divine masculine energy, and what does divine feminine energy feel like, and how does it feel when the two are in balance, and how to kind of know when one is underbalanced or over compensated for. Like that's been the real magic and alchemy of this process. So
Yeah, exactly. Whereas for me, my natural way to kind of move would have been, that whole divine feminine, that I was, I don't know, I kind of was born with this, tuning in, trusting my intuition, going with the energy, trusting that the net will appear. And what I realized in my evolution as an entrepreneur is that actually there came to a point that the energy that was coming through me was so vast that it needed kind of channels, that it needed, kind of containers, that it needed processes, that it needed systems, that it needed actually the support. It needed the support and the foundations that really allowed it all to play the music. So if you're playing music and you play with just one note, then there is no melody, right? So it's like when you're playing, with all different keys, you get a beautiful song. And what I have found is that, I resisted the numbers before. I resisted the detail. I resisted really having, a system. And what I've realized now is actually there is a really important place in a certain phase and evolution of you, the identity of who you are as a soul. If you feel that you are a leader, a wayshower, a pioneer, and that you are feeling this strong calling that we're, us light workers, this is our time, but it's going to require us to have a container to channel that energy. Just like a lighthouse, it's like you can have that lighthouse that you can see that, that it just pulsates, but then there are going to be times where that lighthouse is here to light the way, and therefore it needs to shine bright out through all of the waters into the sky miles ahead to really see what, the big ocean. And this is why I really feel it's very important now to really start to kind of lean back and lean in and go, okay, what would my business and life look like if I allowed both to intertwine with each other? And what I've also found is that now that I'm starting to have these support systems, uh, in place, I'm really seeing the growth, the allow, the receiving. It's allowed me to receive more, and I think that's one of the things, particularly for women, that that we feel that receiving is conditional. But what if receiving was unconditional, and we allowed ourselves to become, because it's about becoming the both. And for me, I think I have spent a lot of money, like probably over the last maybe 7 years, like about $100,000, knowing that I had this huge energy in it, but I knew it needed a channel. It needed, the image I'm getting as I'm talking is that, like, you start off as this stream, and this grows then into a lake, and now the lake wants to actually go into the ocean. So in our businesses, we start out birthing our babies, our programs that, that the people that we connect with, they really mean so much. And then we have to allow them to grow, to walk on their own, to run, to go into school like our children do. And then, letting them to grow into the adults, and then saying, right, it's time now to, go and discover the world. And it's the same kind of principles for our businesses, but also for our soul's journey. So I'd love to hear what you've got to share in your experience, about what I've just shared there. Any other kind of nuggets that might help our viewers?
Yeah, well, I love actually hearing that for you, like you were kind of much like, it makes sense now, obviously, that Marcia, the ancient divine feminine, would be more comfortable in her feminine. But it's so interesting how, like, I was more in my masculine, but like we have come together. So it doesn't matter where you start, like whether you have
Exactly.
tended to be more in your feminine or tended more in your masculine, like the place we're going is the same. And for me, like I resisted like really trusting my intuition and really trusting the spiritual and the divine. Like it took me some time to kind of really open up to that. And so, whereas that was what, you was your strength from the beginning. So I think it's just lovely to hear that no matter where you're coming from where on the spectrum of the feminine masculine balance you are, like there's a path to balance the two. And I know that, in talking about growing our soulful soul businesses, like I think it just really, I love reflecting on just how that's evolved. Like I have always felt like, there's a soul calling in me, but I don't really know what form it's going to take, or what am I supposed to do in the world. But I just knew that I just had to keep following whatever the soul calling was, and just keep the unfolding of it. It's just been so interesting to fascinating to watch, because I think when I came to work with you initially, Marcia, like, back in almost 2 years ago, let's see, what I knew I wanted something into the world that was more of my soul expression, kind of like in a very masculine way. I'm like, okay, tell me what to do, Marcia. Like, show me the next steps. And you're like, oh, hold on. Like, there's so much energy, there's so much pressure you're putting on yourself right now. There's too much masculine pressure you're putting on yourself. And I didn't even realize that because it was just my natural, it's not my natural. It was my conditioned way
Yeah.
being successful. My conditioned way of being successful up until that point in my life was like, tell me what to do and I will do it very well. And that, puts pressure on oneself. And so you just kind of lifted off that like masculine pressure and you were just like rest back in your feminine. Let your soul guide you. Let the divine guide you. And it just felt like a lightening of my load. And so through our work, I did come up with like a soulfully birthed, earth workshop that was going to be my first experience. And then COVID hit, and so I had to cancel that workshop. But I launched it in the divine feminine way, and I got 10 people to sign up for this live workshop, which I felt was wonderful. And then I had to cancel it, and then COVID hit, and then that was it for like that time. And then a couple of months later, I think through Melanie Moore, got introduced to BBD. And I
That's business by design, just in case.
James Wedmore's Business by Design. And for somehow it felt like an intuitive hit to like follow this too. Like he was talking about online business and being really, the CEO of your own company. And I was like, oh yes, this sounds really, really like what I want: freedom, impact, income, lifestyle. And so I signed up for BBD and, jumped right in my very masculine way. Like I'm a doer, and like I followed his things like a student. He's like, choose a 90-day execution launch and do it. So I chose my webinar launch. I went through all his things, and I felt good. There was a lot of growth there. There was a lot of growth in being an online entrepreneur. Like I needed to learn what that means. Like, what are the steps of how to put together a webinar, how to promote a webinar, but all throughout it, like the energy felt like it was it felt like I was being worked. I did feel a little overworked again. Putting it on James, it was my residual and sort of way of approaching business of, I was still too much in my masculine. And so following those processes in the way he laid them out, it did feel like draining to me. It did feel draining, to be honest, but I persevered because I do what I say I'll do. And so I followed through the process, and I was proud of myself, but I didn't get any sales, which, in some ways, the outcome like not a success, but I viewed the entire process as success because I really felt like that's what I needed to experience to grow in my development in that.
You got the learning.
I so got the learning, and I so embodied the confidence of like, I can do this. And, but I still had to like figure out, hey, like, what's the next step? I'm just kind of like, okay, what's the next step? And then, so that was last fall. And then literally like a month or two later, I knew like I needed some more support to get me into my business the way I wanted to be. It wasn't just going to be BBD because I followed it. It didn't work for me. The energy didn't feel right. And I just knew that like I needed something else to go along with it. And then like literally a month or two later, Marcia, you come out with Divinely Prosper. I think I had already reached out to you in between. I'm like, I need something else. And you're like, yes, something's coming. And so when DP came, Divinely Prosper came like last fall, I just knew this is it. Like, I need this container. The same way you're like, you need a container to channel growth. I'm like, I need a container to channel the next chapter of my personal growth, my entrepreneurial growth. I can't do this on my own. And yeah, so in the last, since that fall till now, it's that has been the container for this melding of the feminine and masculine. Because I have the processes from BBD, but now I have the energetic feminine principles of how to run a business and how to let a business flow out of you from your soul. And it's interesting when I BD the first time, one of the first processes is like nail your niche. And I went through that and I couldn't nail my damn niche. Like I just couldn't. Like I just couldn't. Like it just couldn't, it didn't come. Like, and so I that was probably why my first launch didn't really produce the sales outcome I wanted because I hadn't really nailed my niche. But at the time, I didn't know how. When you, Marcia, told us this fall, right before the Christmas marketplace, you actually said, "What is your secret?"
Yeah, so.
And that, like when you asked me right away, it came through. I work with water consciousness. I didn't even have to think about it. I just knew. My soul knew and whispered it to me. And so when I like just went with that truth, that soul truth, that I just intuitively, innately work with water consciousness, like everything just opened up. Everything just opened up. And from the Christmas marketplace where I offered my first water healings, I just knew that like I just had to get this out, like drop by drop. I'll get this out drop by drop because I know the nature of water is that once you let it flow, it's just gonna grow. Like you said, like it's gonna grow and flow. And from then I just allowed the energies to take me. And so then I launched again 2 months ago in April with I didn't do any BBD processes this time because I already knew it. I already knew what the process was, but I just followed the flow. And then I launched my Waterkeepers community membership effortlessly. Like it just flowed out of me. And I got 20 founding members, and it's just been like the last 2 months that we've been working together, like I've felt it like opening even more. Balancing the, the masculine, like I need to build a team. I needed to get support.
That's
I needed
right.
to have some processes. And so where I'm at, where the two are coming together, it feels really good. It feels in alignment. And I can actually sense, like there are days when I overwork myself and I'm like, okay, I need to stop. I need to stop because I need to rest. And then I don't worry about it. Whereas I think in the past, I would have continued to kind of like really push. Now I'm like, I just need to rest and let my energies restore themselves. And then when I'm feeling in the energy, I'll do the next step. So yeah.
Power in the pause, as I say. And that's why, like what you're explaining there are kind of four keys, like there's the energetic alignment. So you were in the energetic alignment because you'd also done, you had been in the energy of the divine feminine. You've done a lot of like clearing, healing, realigning, tuning into the soul. Instead of just doing a 90-day plan, we tuned into the soul of your business, into your guides, into the container where we're feeling it. We were getting to know the container. We were asking, because the container has its own energy of its own, has its own frequency. And we were just then, like what you were doing is you were following like what the divine.
Let me decline that, sorry.
You were following the divine guidance and you knew how to implement. So that's the intuitive implementation. And you had the soul connection of you as a soul and what you were stepping into your calling, really. And then you also had nailed kind of the wealth consciousness. So you were able to set your pricing, without, not from a place of lack, but from a place of like, let's ask the energy, what does it want to receive? Like, because there's always the law of compensation, and have nothing on it, right? So you were able to. Is that okay?
I don't know how to stop it from my
No, it's all
computer.
right. It's all right. So I think that's really important kind of piece to kind of go, when, when you found your way of bringing it together, that there was a dance. This is about the dance of both. Because for me, what I found is kind of the opposite to your story, is that I knew that I would tell myself I need to be more organized, need to have a bit more structure, but I didn't want to have too much structure, because I felt that limited my, my energy. But actually, that was a mindset shift too, because I really feel my thing was allowing the support in. And I had spent a lot of money going, I know I have this amazing gift. I know I have, like, the energies that come through me shift people. Like, you're in my energy, even my voice is just like people are shifting. But actually, to the next evolution, because I was stepping into the voice of the ancient divine feminine, and to creating Divinely Prosper for highly spiritual women and leaders, and creating this heaven and earth, and empowering women to go, let's claim our power as the womb man, and as the womb man, because the womb is our wealth vault. And it's like really stepping into, the name, even woman, we're both, we're the feminine, and we're the masculine, the male. And so what I found then, I was like, okay, for me to be able to expand this, I feel I'm needing something else. But what I was doing was I was looking for a divine feminine woman, or a container to show me how to bring in the masculine. And what happened was, we actually joined the same time through Melanie, because I had decided that I was going to just not do I was just going to take a break, because I'd invested so much in programs, so much in coaching, that it's also time consuming. And I was also, because I can't do anything if I'm not feeling it. So even though I'd spent all this money, but when I went in, I was like, oh my God, this is so against the grain. And when I had decided I even wasn't. That's another thing I think we have to watch ourselves, that when we say, I'm not going to do something, but something else shifts, and you're going, oh my God, maybe what I said I would do, now it feels that actually I'm going to do it. So I had decided I am not joining any more programs. I purposely didn't watch he was doing this launch for Business by Design, purposely didn't watch the Rise of the Digital CEO. And then I was going, which I think is also a sign as well. I was going to get my new car in Dublin. I was in the hotel, and I got this message from Melanie saying, I got an intuitive hit for you. Check out Business by Design. And then the next day I picked up my car. I was driving down from Dublin to Cork. And another friend messaged me saying, I'm joining Business by Design. I would love for you to join with me. And then I went, funnily enough, you're the water healer. What did I do? I went straight to the beach, and I stood in the edges of the ocean, of the sea. It was a beautiful day. I had the phone in my hand, and I was like, let's connect in. And I feel someone came in and went, like, I felt my fingers that I had no control over signing up there and then. And I felt this. You know what it felt like? It felt as if the brake, that the handbrake, was literally released. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my! I felt instant freedom. And then a month later, I got the name Divinely Prosper. And what I did was, I was like, I didn't want to be figuring out things. I went straight into Business by Design, and I went, okay, I have this container. Well, what is the channel? I wasn't sure how this, because I had no other information, only Divinely Prosper. It was a whole new way of leading in business, the divine feminine way, women claiming their power. And I just saw my eyes kind of land on membership. But I was like, I don't want a membership. I feel people have, my experience was you get lost in membership. It took me 2 weeks to kind of sit with it, go back in, feel in, talk it out. And then and now I was like, okay, it's going to be a membership. This is an idea of what it's going to be. I followed some of the processes of launching, but again, I made it my own. I was like, no, it's too. I was like, really, it's like a cake recipe. I was like, no, I don't. For example, if you're gluten free, I don't like. I don't like ordering flesh. I do gluten free. I was changing the ingredients, tasting it as I was going. What about a bit of this and a bit of that? And I ended up having 40 women join, and I was like, oh my god. And so what I have found is that I am now, the consistency, I think, as well, that's kind of helping me. So it's every quarter, I'm doing my version of 90 days. I'm doing the 99-day Divine Counsel, which we do in Divinely Prosper, of tuning into the energetics first, asking what does the highest identity of our souls, the highest identities of our business want, because they are the containers for us to do our great big work that we're being called to do. And then I got the idea. I thought when I went in I did, again, following the energy, in January, I did the soul color ritual. And I had said again, actually, that's the thing. I after joining Business by Design, it was also about recruitment, and I recruited an integrator. And Lisa, really, my right-hand woman, she really has supported me, because when we're growing and reaching much more people, we can't do it alone. So I'm like, it's great to have a fellow person to really, who gets you, who sees, who really is with you on the journey. And then in the January, when I had done the 12-day ritual, I got guidance, and I was going, no, I don't want to do, a kind of a launch. And the name came, and I don't like the word challenge either. I'm like, no, because I'd be into the vibration of the words. But I took the concept of a challenge, and I actually did the High Priestess. And now we have 90 women. So it's like, I really feel very deeply strong in me at that part of my soul mission is to bring to light, to shine the light, to say to women really who are either too much in their masculine and are still working hard, playing hard, making it happen, wanting to know, the hard, and me going, come here, darling, let's tune into the softness. You are more than good enough. You are perfect. Your success is inevitable. Let's tune in, not what you has been projected on you and on society, because also in society, intuition has been brushed under the carpet, dismissed. But actually, if you look at anybody that's really meaningfully fulfilled and successful, they all are aware of this ancient cosmic wisdom and knowledge. And I feel very passionate about bringing the ancient wisdom and knowledge back, that is going to really lift us all up and go, I can have times in my life where it's the action, and I can also have the pause. And it's constantly, because we're constantly need reminding of going, who's in my energy? Because we're picking up always on the mass consciousness. And it's like, I'm in my own energy and my own body. I'm connecting now up with my divine. And now I'm going to ask, I'm ready, I'm available. Show me the next step. And so then you're not doing anything from a place of having to. So it's a lot of kind of unlearning, I think, for the masculine woman, the way she's being. But for the woman like me, who is, my natural way is I just know this like the back of my hand, the divine feminine. What I'm being called is to learn that actually the masculine is the place that can really hold the expansiveness of the woman. And what I'm thinking about here, actually, if you think about Mary Magdalene and Jesus, it was Mary Magdalene that was really guiding Jesus to really do his big work. She really supported him. She really guided him. She had that knowledge. She went to the goddess Isis school to really harness her divine feminine power, that and marry that in to Jesus. So and constantly reminding him that yes, he can do it, because he also came across an awful lot of rejection. He was the one also that had to keep on going back to his belief, and she reminded him about the divinity, that unity consciousness. And then what happened was he ascended and came back to life to show us that actually we don't have to be in pain, be in struggle, be in suffering, because that already has been done. Now we are reminded that it's about pleasure. Yes, there could be discomfort or uneasiness, because when we're growing in our soul, our bodies are actually expanding, which is like even our businesses, when they're growing, there'll be expansion, and space is required for expansion. So there's a little bit discomfort, but once you learn to let go, then and loosen and soften, then it just flows.
Exactly, Marcia.
Yeah, so what would you say is the final piece that you'd like to pass on to women out there who are saying, who are either like you, who are in their masculine and really afraid to let go, to trust this intuition, this other part of who they are?
Yeah, a couple of things, just kind of last messages. Is first of all just trusting in the process, like you're right where you're supposed to be. Like, the journey is not linear. It's like
Yeah.
I had to be in my over masculine. That was my journey, and kind of like, all the things that we think don't turn out the way we want them to. They're all learning. So everything just unfolds with divine timing, and trusting in the process, the timing, the patience, and then also trusting that the divine always catches us. Like that's been like really the saving grace of like continuing along this journey. Is like, I don't need to know, and I don't need to figure it out all myself. Like, as long as I keep following my guidance and trusting that the divine has the highest good of all, just continuing to trust and surrender more and more. Like, the divine never lets you down.
Never.
Never. And so when you can really like live knowing that the divine will not let you down, then everything becomes possible. And yes, it is still scary. It is still takes courage. But if you're even listening to this conversation, like, follow Marcia, you have it. You have it in you. This connection to the divine that wants you to trust it more. So
Yeah, so true.
just trust the divine, both the divine masculine and the divine feminine, because it's all the divine. The divine itself is, it's that, it's hard to say what exactly it is, but it is
Yeah.
the divine.
It's the subtlety as well. Like, I talk about the difference between alignment and misalignment. So, you know, alignment is the feeling, is there's a little bit of fear, a little bit of excitement, but there is that sense of peace that's like, I know this doesn't make any sense. Because also to remember that divine feminine, or intuition actually, isn't logical at times. It's like, you know, for example, when I had a visitation from Goddess Isis, and I was told that I was going to be moving to Ireland. I was living in Belgium I had like on paper, I had a great lifestyle, had a lovely house. My husband was working there, 3 young children. And I was, when I went back to Ireland to run a retreat, my laptop was, I left my laptop on board, and I knew, I was like, my soul is calling me back. And I packed up a house and moved to Ireland, because what happened after that, I was like, okay, I actually said, I cannot move until you find me a house, because I had been looking for houses to rent, to buy. Nothing was working out. And I said, if you want me to go, you have got to give me a house. Within 3 weeks, my brother rang saying, I've got an opportunity to go to Australia. You've said you want to come back, that you've had guidance to come back. You can have my house, you can have my car. And in 3 weeks, we moved back. So it's like, and some people were going, what? You know, move a whole family? Yes, we did. Was it easy? It was and it wasn't. It was an adjustment, but it felt so right. So I think the people make a mistake of getting so excited about something, going, yes, it has, this is my sign. But then that loses energy. And I'm like, that is not alignment. That is just maybe a distraction. That's just a test to say you wanted something. Do you really want that? Because the work that we're doing is big work. So the divine has to make sure that when it gives us a directive, that we can read the energy, that we're following it without question. So they have to know that we are capable of doing this big work, because they are doing their big work through us. So what I'll say to you is that sometimes the very thing that you're resisting and making wrong and avoiding is the very thing that is going to nourish you. And particularly for women, it's really time for us to let it in. So to receive, to let that in, means to receive unconditionally. What would your life in your business look like if you allowed yourself to be fully supported, fully held, fully witnessed, and to have your soul, the divine, and your business to support you on a whole new level? And so what I'm going to do now to kind of close the final message about the importance of having the balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine together, we're going to ask Goddess Isis, who is the ancient divine feminine goddess, and who's a powerhouse and who's very much here to really bring us back to our power as the womb man, and that yes, we can have the end back in our life, in our businesses, and let go of what was. And the card message is the Lunar Queen.
Look at that.
Isn't that amazing? She of the celestial crescent. So just look at that. And if you look at the moon is also about the cycles. So if you watch the moon, how it comes into full bloom, but then it reduces, it really comes back to the beginning. So we're constantly completing cycles that are going to move us forward. And in fact, there is never an ending without a beginning. Okay, so let's just quickly share what this means. I love how it all comes together. And we say that a lot, you just couldn't make it up. You couldn't, oh my God, So here she is. There is a deep feminine wisdom that recognizes the importance of cycles of rest and replenishment, an essential balancing to our actions of power and demonstration. You are asked to allow this replenishment for yourself now, trusting that you're in a cycle of creation that is about to shift you into a new phase. Release and enjoy the process without having to control or force it. Isis, as lunar queen, understands the cycles of creative power and flow. Sometimes it can be hard to let go of a desire to force, control, and make things happen, to exert might and willpower to bring what you wish for into being by sheer determination, exertion, and force. Yet, the vast creative power of the feminine principle is in honoring and flowing with cycles of activity and rest, of releasing force and surrendering into the perfection of what's happening right now, realizing that this actually brings us divine manifestation and creation more effortlessly, gracefully, and to greater effect. Absolutely amazing. That's what I feel is all we need to hear. So I hope this has inspired you to really open up to a way of being and a way of doing in your business, in your life, in your soul's evolution, no matter what phase you are in. And if you really feel called to do something differently that is more supportive, I really would encourage you to do that for yourself, because when the woman in the house is in a good place, everybody is. Thank you so much for watching, and you can reach me at marcia@glowyourtruecolors.com. And Liz, do you want to share how people can reach you and follow you?
Yes. How can you reach me?
Instagram, no?
Yes, Instagram. Liz LIZGTZMD.
Your
Um,
email?
and then my email is liz@lizgtzmd.com. I have my team working on my Waterkeepers community website, which I can share in a month or two. But yeah,
Wonderful.
those are the best ways to reach me right now.
Great. And we're at a phase where Business by Design is now open for anybody that has really liked what you heard and would like to have these tools, have these processes, but that you're able to connect with their magic and the divine feminine, because I will guide you to make use of the masculine and the feminine in every aspect of your life. So you can reach out to me at marcia@glorioutruecolors.com, and I can't wait to connect with you. Thank you so much. Mwah. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.